Assalamu alaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Hope you're doing well. So, in the beginning of the video, I showed you a screenshot of some pathetic criminals stealing mailboxes yet again in the Bay Area, right? And that made me think about how important stay-at-home moms are to the community. Because they are a watchful eye. While you're washing the dishes, you're out glancing. Tending to your garden, you're at home, right? You keep an eye on your neighborhood and you're able to call the police right away. Now, strangely, some people have called looking after your community being a Karen. I don't agree with that. I think that it's incumbent upon every moral person to make it as difficult as possible for criminals to operate. Now, few things come through the mail, but a lot of things do at the same time that are important. And identity theft is a problem, but we see how the liberals, the progressives, the leftists, and the Democrats are very soft on crime, and how this has led to more and more criminals being emboldened to do acts in broad daylight. Okay? Now, I have often proposed we need forced labor camps for criminals. So we need to start going into a medieval type of punishment system. And the criminals cannot just be living their best life in prison with free food, laundry, water, and not having to worry about the stress of bills and surviving. They should have something that is very difficult as a punishment. And so when we have non-violent crimes, such as these pathetic scumbags stealing the mailboxes and making it very hard for property owners and community members to have civility, if we had some type of work camp we could put them in for like 2 years where they have to do excruciatingly hard labor, put them in the coal mines, put them to digging trenches for something like the railroads or whatever, chain their legs together so they can escape, right? But make them do really difficult tasks that they won't really be paid for. They're not going to be paid for it, so that they can be less likely to reoffend. Giving them lollipops and GED programs isn't working when we need to go more authoritarian with how we punish them. Allowing them to consume food and water and electricity without contributing anything to society means they're a net drain. So, since they are uncivilized, ghastly scumbags who rather harm the good citizens, we should have labor camps where people who refuse to operate well in society can then serve the government and the people in the society. It's really important for us to get serious on crime because things are getting really, really wild in America, and the main news outlets don't really cover it. I do enjoy following a lot of different accounts on BitChute and stuff that keep you updated with local crime from different sources, so that you're aware of what kind of world you live in and that you're not in Disneyland. But for people to just be so bold and brazen, that is breaking down law and order. And liberals claim, especially the atheists, they claim to like Western values. One of the Western values is law and order. If you have people doing these types of acts with zero fear, we need to have serious labor camps. If it's easier to rob and pillage than it is to have a decent job and pay rent, we're setting our society up to fail. And we can do prison reforms by having work camps. making them build stuff. Like you have, like, for example, we could do a lot of mental exercises. You got a construction site, but you also need to have some humiliation there as well. So make them identified in their prison outfit, make a chain on them so they can't really run that fast, and make sure it's a nice thick chain so they can't just wiggle their way out of it or something like that. And then they'll be like an apprentice almost in a way at the construction site, but a guard will be in charge of observing them, and they'll have to work and do those dirty jobs that are difficult and excruciating. We need to set them up to where they can start learning about, if you do this, you will be punished. Now, I also think that flogging could come back. Now, we have a lot of very bleeding heart liberals who favor criminals, and they think if you just give a criminal a loaf of bread and a Dunkin' Donuts gift card, they're just gonna stop, and they just need some talk. Well, since atheists mock religious people, they're gonna have to figure out how do you make them stop doing crime. And paying a criminal not to do crime is not a solution. Instead, you should have public floggings of the criminals. And I think we need to bring back public executions, and we need to go back to the old-fashioned ways of dealing with criminals in terms of if you do something, you'll have your head in that wooden block with your hand sticking out, and people can just walk by and throw tomatoes at you or do something terrible like that. And you'll endure the elements. And I know we're not supposed to have cruel and unusual punishment, but when somebody is a repeat offender, they no longer fear the law. They won't change. If a grandma cries, oh, stop, they don't care. If they don't have any role model that will convince them to stop. So you must make an example out of them. Okay? Liberals have had their time to make it shine in California. And they can say, oh, crime went down like 0.0%, blah, blah, blah. No, crime is rampant. And they hide and censor and ban people who report on the crime because it goes against their philosophy. Because it's evidence against them. Alright? And since we're having more and more people decide that they just don't want to be members of society and have a job, they'd rather rob and commit thuggery, we have to have old style punishments for those people. And we can't listen anymore to liberals who say like, well, that's extreme, that's just, that's not really going to stop anything, and it's just so primitive, so barbaric. They try to shame people who want law and order and peace. And that enables the predator to have more access to the lambs. To be a leader in your community means you want to preserve the safety and functionality. Criminals impede that. It's time for more moms to be vigilant, and we should put more police funding. And this is how we're going to get military in the street, because I'm so tired of criminals. Leftists fear, many people fear the military in the streets because it could be corrupt, right? But I'd rather see a criminal who is robbing mailboxes be put out on sight by a soldier than to see them go in front of the judge and pay a $50 fee and then be out. Because we have to stop tolerating crime. Stop being soft on crime. There's redemption, so we're not going to put them away for like 20 years. That's a waste of our resources. But put them in a work camp, public floggings, some type of shaming ritual, making their life physically hard, and breaking them from the sin that is in them. The atheists have had their time to make it shine. Their solutions are weak. Think about it, moms. Think about how these criminals are inconveniencing you. Why should you have mercy on them? Why should you take pity on them? Why should you make it easier for them to commit crimes? Why should the taxpayers suffer to feed and house a criminal? A criminal should suffer. We have to be harsh on law breaking. And when the communities are plagued to the point where we can't even have our mailboxes be safe, you need new leadership. You need a new philosophy in your town. The more you allow, the worse it'll get. And liberals are incapable of cracking down on crime. New York City and San Francisco, basically New York and California, are crime havens. We need to fix that. Doesn't mean we forget upper class crime, right? Of the white collar class and corruption of government, but it does mean we need to protect our communities and stop the traumatization of the children and of the elderly and of the vulnerable by cracking down on crime in such a way that a criminal will have permanent scars from flogging from his actions. Think about it. Going to prison is soft now. Yeah, they may not get the great food and they're bored sitting in a cell, staring at the wall. And then they go cuckoo crazy and adapt and develop schizophrenia. That's not necessarily a punishment. You want to keep their mind good and make an example of them so that hopefully they can refrain from their inactivity of being a good citizen and then become an active, contributing member of society. Think about the bloated bureaucracy we have now. It's very dysfunctional. Things could be such more quicker, concise, and shorter. Okay, you stole those mailboxes, 50 lashings on the public, and then you put them on a post, gather the community around, let kids see, everyone gets to see, sell some popcorn, and then this person, while they're crying and everything, and you see it, you put in for the kids, you put in that thing in them, like, hey, if you go around harming innocent people, ruining their day, creating, destabilization in your society because you refuse to work and contribute, this is the outcome. Okay? Spain had this for a while during the period where Cortez was around. And I really do think that the people of the past had a very good point when it came to how they would handle a criminal. Think about it. Don't let the bleeding heart Ivy League class make you get your soft heart for criminals. A lot of them would allow a criminal to hurt them and they won't even fight back. Don't take your sense of strength from people who have none and who are sheltered and are willing victims. Like, somebody could do something to them and they would just roll on the ground and cry and beg for it to stop. They wouldn't fight for their life. They don't love anybody, so they don't have this need to protect anyone. They only love their own narcissism and their own egos. We have to stop looking to the fart-smelling echo chamber Ivy League towers for our morality. They exist in a theoretical world and have lost touch with the struggles of the everyday person. So I'd argue that it's time for California and America to turn to new punishments for felons. It's important. Now, human rights organizations, they got mad at El Salvador for the way they were punishing their criminals. But lecturing a thug is like trying to tell a lion, like, okay, no, you're swimming in the ocean. Great white shark's coming up. You're gonna tell that great white shark, don't eat me. Like, the shark's just like this black-eyed, all his teeth. Like, he's not connecting with any of your crime at all. You are lunch. You either win become lunch, or escape. Showing options. When you're talking to a criminal in the moment of their crime, they are a different entity. You have to retrain them and shock them out of their criminal ways. And some people will stay criminals and we can just dispose of them. If somebody just wants to go around harming people, society has no benefit to them, and if someone is going to go to prison for life, why not just get those organs? We have to start, this is getting out of control. Like, come on, this is crazy. Someone goes around hurting children, doing massive financial crimes. They won't repent. They don't want to change. Okay, they're in and out of prison. And then you're like, life in prison, tunk. And it's like, okay. The good people are working to pay rent, suffering to pay health insurance. Okay, their water isn't guaranteed. Their food isn't guaranteed. A prisoner's is. They're going to be there for how many more years, causing problems for the guards. They're going to be R-wording other inmates. They're just a pest. There's no sense to keep them. So, do they have a good organ? Can they donate some blood? Get what you can out of them and get rid of them and make it faster. You speed it up. This sounds so cold to some people, but in reality, you have to ask yourself, how many more years are we just going to be giving roses and flowers to criminals? Okay, it's like we have this giant ship. It's loaded up with a bunch of cargo and it's sinking into the ocean. It's bouncing, it's swaying. That's the criminal justice system. And we're just like, oh, chuck another case on top of there. And the captain's like, like, there's so much stuff in here, I can't even steer it right. That's our system. So if we start clearing those containers, alright, burning them, chucking them overboard, if it's just like, let the crabs have some food, as they say, we could save a lot of space, a lot of pollution, and make an example. I'm ready for that. I'm ready for our society to make true examples of criminals. I think more and more moms, though, wake up to it, man. It would be nice. Like, imagine a guy, he took out a pregnant woman, right? Instead of him going to life in prison, you go and you see in front of your state capitol his head on a pike. Kunk! And then his name. I mean, like, that is more of justice. And then criminals saying, that's gonna be you. And, like, people can spit on the head. We can disgrace it. Like, having these sort of strong messages. Because evil doesn't respond to crying, to love letters. Oh, just stop. You gotta win. Beat them down into submission. It's getting harder and harder for good men to protect women because our system is favoring and enabling the criminality. The fact that people would even think to just steal mailboxes, and the mailbox is not even being bolted down. So a lack of security mindset shows you that our society is being too comfortable. The generation of not leaving your doors locked is over. The small towns will eventually have problems as well. People have to have a security mindset. I'm always talking about it. When people are like, every mom should work. If the neighborhoods are empty, the criminals aren't out working. They're out doing crimes. It's easy for them to commit crimes because no one's there to be observant. Okay? You having a street camera ain't gonna do nothing besides show after the fact. But if you have a person there plus the camera, now you're talking business. You got an eyewitness and a recording. Okay? Keep in mind, it's an important thing for us to make our communities as safe as possible. If people got anger problems, mental health problems, financial problems, they gotta sort that out. They cannot then resort to harming innocent people, inconveniencing the people. Okay? If somebody had a dog that kept biting them, they would be a fool to keep that dog in their house. Criminals are worse than that. Criminals are like walking Ebola. They're zombies. You don't invite the zombie to sit at Thanksgiving dinner. Okay? People who earn respect deserve it. Criminals deserve no respect. Okay? More women at home, in their communities, not at a 9-to-5 job, watching their neighborhoods means safer neighborhoods for kids. That is how we measure our society. Are women safe? Little boys and little girls safe? Are the elderly safe? Then we know we've made it. Criminals like that, who take mailboxes and do crappy things like that, they deserve to be in a work camp. We need to get candidates in who are ready to go hardcore on crime. And not just locking them away and then taxing us. No. Lower our taxes, make the criminal's life so miserable to where you put so much fear into the criminals and broadcast it. You know, like, oh, this is going to happen to you. You know, make the gulags blush. We need to stop it. We need a real man, a strong man who is going to rule with a law and order fist and make criminals terrified. Otherwise, we'll turn into Ecuador. Ecuador is having a coup right now. The cartels in Ecuador are going nuts, having fun. They took over a news station. Look it up. We have to put out those mini fires. And criminality is growing in America. Don't listen to liberals anymore. They could have a criminal beat them with a metal pipe, and the liberal would say they did it because of injustice. Like, it's crazy. It's crazy. Don't liberals fetishize being a victim of crime. They don't have any spines. They think they're doing good, but they become too soft. Too soft. It's time to go the opposite way. The justice system deserves to have mercy towards people who made a mistake and can reform. But that doesn't mean you don't give them a harsh punishment. Oh, I'm sorry, I committed crimes. Okay, you may be sorry, but you're still going to get that punishment. Maybe next time then you'll learn. Instead of putting them in jail for 3 years, flog them. You don't gotta house them and make them pay for the medical bill. You get an infection, you need Tylenol, that's up to you. Bye-bye. Scoot. No, okay, I'm gonna go I gotta get booked in jail. Police officers gotta do the paperwork, and it's like all this bureaucracy. No. Flog. 50 lashes in the public, on your way, documented. Next. Flog. And just have a perpetual thing of flogging. I believe that would change a lot more. That would hurt. And maybe there's one guy who's gonna have a bunch of scars and he's gonna like turn into a supervillain. But eventually, that's gonna end because he'll get too weak. Don't give him any medical attention after. Just nope. Get out there. Make it cold. Because the criminals have no sympathy, no empathy, no mercy for those who they are harming. So why should we have it towards them? That's crazy. A liberal will tell you, oh no, please. The criminal, he's just trying to beat you to death. But did you know that his mommy didn't love him when he was little? No. That's not gonna work. Robots are coming, okay? That robot ain't gonna care about your crying. That robot is gonna be coded to deliver the mission, okay? You got that chip in you. It'll find your cell phone, satellites, and that robot, that little dog robot, go and execute so-and-so. You're in your Tesla, it's connecting to where you're driving. Robots ain't gonna feel nothing. It's more humane to have a human witness your suffering and do the punishment it impacts the human more than just pressing a button and having a robot do it. Because then it has more detachment, more disconnection. It's very, very important. And we're not talking about, like, oh, you are part of this political party, so we're going to jail you. No, I'm not talking about that. People who are on camera doing crimes that you know is wrong. Verified cases. That's what I'm talking about. You know, irrefutable. Beyond a reasonable doubt. That's what I'm talking about. Let me know what you think. It's controversial. But the crime is so bad now, I think we have to start being openly... Have those dialogues. Criminal might hear and be like, oh, the tide is changing. You never know. But if everyone's like, no, the criminal's like, yeah, I'm the king. But if we're like, yeah, we should totally, like, get a guillotine. And the criminal's like, what? Think about it, man. I think some of that medieval stuff has a good point. When it's used in the right way. If you'd like to join my blog, it's www.subscribeshow.com/MilahanArchive. Hope to see you there.